So we're going to be doing the kite example. It's there's the Peanuts cartoon that goes with it. But before we get to that, sometimes it's easier to do these problems if you sort of keep in mind who's on first, okay? So well, you've got usually 3 or 4 people involved. Sometimes you'll have a manufacturer and a wholesaler, but I've just kind of lumped them together as a supplier. So we've got the supplier, goods and services flow to the retailer, and the retailer, money flows to them. The retailer, and here's your happy customer, goods and services go to the customer, and money comes to the retailer. So on this side of the building, you've got your inventory and your purchases accounts. On this side of the building, you've got your sales transactions with sales returns and allowances, sales discounts, all of that. This is where you find your purchase discounts, your purchase returns and allowances, and all of that. So when we look at this Peanuts cartoon, the journal entries for a merchandising company, you'll see Fribble's hardware store had an inventory of 20 kites. So you may want to just sketch something like this out and just say, okay, so this is Fribble's here. Okay, Fribble's. That's harder than it looks. Fribble's hardware. Okay, so that's Fribble's hardware there. And then the supplier, in this case, is the Flying Kite Company. You know, just something simple. So here you've got Flying Kite. Okay, so you may want to sort of keep that in mind. This is the supplier, this is the retailer, and then you've got your happy customers, and I don't think they name any particularly in this problem, but sometimes they will. Okay, so once you have that down, then you can go to the problem, and it might make a little bit more sense. So here we've got Fribble's purchased 50 kites at $2.50 each from Flying Kite Company. That's a supplier. So this is going to be an inventory transaction and accounts payable. We owe money to the supplier. How much? 50 kites times 250, 125. And this is perpetual, so we're using the inventory account. Okay, we sold 40 kites for $4 each on account. Now we're on the other side of the building. This is selling to our happy customer. So we've got accounts receivable and sales revenue for 40 times 4. And then we book, because it's perpetual, cost of goods sold, and we reduce our inventory account by 40 times the, oh, yeah, this is a little bit, okay, for the 40 times the $2. I've got to redo this problem. I just noticed this. I'm not going to redo the video, though. This should have been $2 to go along with that. So we're going to just pretend that this is $2 too, all right? Okay. I swear I corrected that at some point. Anyway. All right, so this is, we got through the 6th, okay, and you update the cost of goods sold because it's perpetual. Now on the 7th, we received a credit from Flying Kite Company for the return of 10 defective kites. Okay, now we're on the supplier side of the building. We're returning kites to our supplier. So we're going to be reducing the accounts payable we owe that supplier, and we're going to be reducing our inventory because we sent those goods back to them, okay? Now on the 13th, we issued a credit memo to an unhappy customer for the return of 3 kites that were sold to them. So now we're on the customer side of the building. So we've got sales returns and allowances, reduce the receivables, and we put it back in inventory and reduce our cost of goods sold. Okay, and then on the 14th, we paid our supplier less the discount, and let's see what that looks like. This one over here, so let's have that come back over. Okay, so we reduced the accounts payable was 125, but then 25 was returned, reduced, so we actually owe 100. So the accounts payable is reduced by 100. The discount is 2% because you get the terms here. It's 210 net 30. So 2% off the 100 would be $2, and because it's perpetual, we reduce the inventory account, and then we send them a check for 98. Okay, so we go through the same procedure with the periodic, except that you can see the difference here. We're using our purchases account when we buy them, we're just going accounts receivable, sales revenue, not updating the inventory. That we're using accounts payable when there is a return to the supplier, but we're using a purchase returns and allowance account. The 13th, customers return stuff to us, to our company, to Fribbles, and so that's just sales returns and allowances and accounts receivable, no update to the inventory. And then on the last one, instead of doing the inventory account, we use the purchase discounts. Okay, so that's kind of a little summary of the differences between the perpetual and the periodic.